in the 5th year after being taken back by my biological parents. They cooked a big table of dishes for me for the first time, yet, I couldn't feel happy at all. Because they intended to give the company I had painstakingly built to my adoptive brother, but instead of getting angry, I agreed on the spot. Because I had been reborn. In my past life, I had fiercely opposed handing over the company, only to be falsely accused of infidelity by my adoptive brother. In order to salvage the relationship with my wife and parents, I took the blame for my adoptive brother's arson case and went to prison. Yet after my release, I was abandoned on the streets. My wife not only remarried my adoptive brother, but even my daughter affectionately called him Dad, and my biological parents just watched coldly as I died of illness. Thus, after being reborn, the first thing I did was accept the invitation from the richest lady in the city, becoming her adopted son. And on the day my wife remarried my adoptive brother, I would deliver them a special gift. I wanted everyone who had ever hurt me to understand, without me shielding them from the storms, they would learn just how cold and unbearable the heavy rain could be. Chapter 1. Mr. Wang. Once you sign this inheritance agreement, you will officially become Madam Chan's son. Madam has no children of her own and places great hopes on you. Please, don't disappoint her, the old butler advised, handing me what I had requested. Proof of my staged death, a critical illness notice for late-stage leukemia, stating the patient had only 1 month to live. I nodded. Please tell Madam Chan that, 1 month from now, George will no longer exist in this world. There will only be her son, David Chan. Bathed in the sunset glow, my car sped along the road home. In the back seat, I sat quietly, hiding a faint sadness while gazing out the window. No one knew. 3 days ago, I had been reborn. In my past life, I was kidnapped at the age of 7 and taken to a remote village. Heartbroken, my parents adopted a boy of the same age named Makoto, though I was eventually found 10 years later. My parents had already formed a deep bond with their adoptive son, while their love for their biological son, me, was lukewarm at best. Fortunately, I was highly capable. Within 5 years, I successfully led Wang Group to go public, propelling the Wang family's status in City A to new heights. However, soon after, Makoto committed arson and injured others, facing a 10-year prison sentence. My parents, desperate to protect him, even knelt down before me, begging, "George, you grew up in the mountains. You're tough. Your brother, Makoto, is different. He's been pampered all his life. If he goes to prison, he'll never survive." My wife, Willow, also made repeated promises. "George, no matter what happens, Alicia and I will always love you. We'll wait for you to come home and reunite." For 10 long years, I endured prison life. On the day of my release, other inmates were picked up by their families one after another. I waited from dawn till dusk, but no car from the Wang or Liu families ever arrived. During my time behind bars, Makoto had taken my place as the celebrated CEO. The woman who once vowed to wait for me married Makoto in my 2nd year of imprisonment, and my daughter began calling him Dad. When I learned the truth, my hair turned white overnight. At the end of my life, I lay dying in a muddy alley, only to see my daughter Alicia, dressed in expensive clothes, stepping out of a luxury car. She covered her nose, her face full of disgust. "Dad, why did you bring me to see this beggar? I don't want to look at him." Under a black umbrella, my parents clung to Makoto's arms, their eyes cold and disdainful. How could we have birthed such a disgraceful son? The Wang family's reputation is ruined. Willow stood farthest away. When I reached out a trembling hand toward her, she turned her face away. Now, I had returned to the year Makoto committed his crime. This time, I decided to abandon them all first. When I opened the door to my house, I heard my daughter Alicia throwing a tantrum in the living room. "I don't want Dad. I want Uncle. Uncle buys me toys and takes me for ice cream. Dad only forces me to do things I hate. I hate him." I listened in silence, biting my lower lip. A sharp pain pierced my heart. Alicia had a sensitive stomach. Even while managing thousands of people at work, I never forgot to supervise her meals. But Makoto gave her whatever she wanted, becoming closer to her than a real father would. Years of care had earned only my daughter's hatred. After being reborn, I decided never to care for her again. I walked into the living room without even glancing at Alicia, calmly instructing the maid, "Open the fridge and bring out all the ice cream. From now on, the young lady can eat whatever she wants, do whatever she wants. No one is allowed to stop her." Alicia looked at me, shocked. "Really? Really?" I replied, gazing at her without the slightest warmth. "You want to see your uncle, right? Later, I'll take you there. You can stay at the old house as long as you want. Even if you never come back again, it's fine." Alicia cheered and ran off to pack her little backpack. I glanced at Willow, whose delicate and gentle appearance once fooled me into taking the blame for Makoto. Now that I knew how cold-hearted she truly was, I only felt bored and indifferent. Under my gaze, Willow grew uneasy, her elegant brows knitting together. You're not acting like yourself today. What's happened? I gave a casual tug at my lips. Nothing. I just realized that I don't want to live such a tiring life anymore. Soon, I would fake my death and vanish from the Wang family registry. What happened to Wang Group would have nothing to do with me. As for Willow and Alicia, they would no longer be my wife and daughter. Why should I exhaust myself for others' sake? Just then, a slender hand landed lightly on my shoulder. Willow squeezed it gently, her voice as soft as a flowing stream. Then when will you spend more time with us, George? Even if you don't work anymore. Our family's assets are more than enough to ensure that you and Alicia live a life of luxury. Why put yourself through such hardship? My body stiffened. I thought of how she had tricked me into taking the blame in my past life, and shrugged off her hand. Fixing my gaze firmly on her, Willow grew even more uncomfortable under my stare. Just as tension was rising, I suddenly smiled, as if the coldness just now had been nothing but an illusion. Come back to the old house with me. I have an announcement to make. Chapter 2. At the Wang family's old estate. The moment Alicia entered the door, she threw herself into Makoto's arms, sweetly acting spoiled. Uncle, I missed you so much. Uncle, you look so handsome today. Uncle, your smile is so charming. At home, Alicia was usually a little tyrant who loved to cry and throw tantrums. But in front of Makoto, her mouth was as sweet as honey. I stood to the side, expression calm, glancing out of the corner of my eye at Willow, only to find her also gazing at Makoto with indulgent affection. Sensing my gaze, Willow quickly withdrew her look, just as she was about to say something. Makoto, holding Alicia's hand, walked over. The two of them were wearing matching parent-child outfits. Sis-in-law, look at the matching outfits I bought for Alicia. Aren't they cute? Makoto said, pulling Alicia's hand and making a funny face at Willow. Willow was slightly stunned, because I was present. She restrained her smile and only gave a small nod. She said, Alicia never wears pink. Only you could persuade her. A flicker of pride flashed across Makoto's face as he turned to me. Brother, Alicia likes me so much, are you jealous? Looking at that innocent-looking face, memories of my past life flashed through my mind like a high-speed movie reel. My fingernails dug sharply into my palm, the pain reminding me to stay calm. George, my father's voice came from nearby. All the dishes today are your favorites. Come, have a taste. Snapping out of it, I turned my head and saw a table full of home-cooked dishes, all tailored to my preferred light flavors. In my past life, I had a weak stomach and couldn't handle spicy food. Yet Makoto loved everything fiery hot, and every family gathering the table would be covered in red dishes. Only once had been an exception, and it was today. My father had personally cooked a whole table of my favorite foods, a rare event. Just when I thought I had finally received a shred of familial love, I heard the cruelest words. George, your mother and I discussed it. From now on, you don't need to concern yourself with the company anymore. Focus on taking care of the family. We'll leave everything to Makoto to manage. The pressure from all sides at that moment made me feel like a thief, as if I had stolen something that rightfully belonged to Makoto. No one remembered that before the company went public, I had worked myself into the ICU several times, while Makoto was vacationing leisurely abroad. No one remembered that when my mother was diagnosed with liver cancer and needed a transplant, it was me, freshly recovered from a serious illness, who climbed onto the operating table without hesitation to save her. At the dinner table, Alicia's little face flushed red with anxiety. Just give it to Uncle. Why are you being so stingy? Willow's voice was gentle and sweet. George, even if you don't work, I can support you and Alicia. My mother waved her hand grandly. I'm still the head of this family. This decision is final. Tears welled up in my father's eyes as he pleaded. George, as an older brother, you should let your younger brother have his way. In my past life, on this very day, I exploded with anger, cut ties with the entire family, and swore that unless I died, I would never hand the company over to Makoto. Now, sweeping my gaze across everyone at the table, mother, father, wife, daughter, and the so-called brother, I gave a calm, faint smile and spoke first. Mom, Dad. Actually, I have an announcement to make. Starting tomorrow, I plan to hand the company over to Makoto and formally return to family life. This decision instantly dissolved the tense atmosphere into one of joy. My mother and father beamed at me with smiles I had never seen before, eagerly picking food into my bowl. George, you being so filial and understanding makes us truly proud, but Makoto is still a little too naive. Amid Alicia's shrieks of "Long live Uncle," and the pile of food stacking up like a mountain in my bowl, I had absolutely no appetite. Raising my eyes to look at Willow, sure enough, she was gazing at Makoto with unhidden affection. No one noticed when I quietly slipped away. After that family banquet, I never went back to the company again. 10 days later, while I was running on the treadmill at the gym, my phone buzzed. Opening it, I saw that Makoto had tagged me in a post. He had posted a selfie from the CEO's office, wearing a sharp business outfit, posing exactly the way I used to, projecting the image of a business elite. The caption read, "Leading Wong Group into a new era." Within less than a minute, the whole family had jumped out to cheer him on. My mother commented, "Good son, work hard, the future of Wong Group rests on you." My father commented, "Our Makoto has truly grown into a man overnight." Alicia wrote, "Uncle is the best." Willow's comment was only a single word, "You can do it." Seeing these words of warm encouragement, words no one had ever said to me, I felt a sharp sting in my eyes. The fatigue from my workout suddenly overwhelmed me. I turned off the treadmill and was about to take a shower when another message popped up from Makoto. "Brother, tonight the whole family is throwing me a celebration at Cloud Pavilion. You must come. There's a surprise waiting for you." Makoto's final message was a photo. In the picture, Willow's clothes were half off her shoulders, her bare skin faintly exposed. The meaning behind it needed no explanation. Chapter 3. After staring at Makoto's last message for half an hour, I headed straight for Cloud Pavilion and pushed open the door to the private room. Inside, familiar voices reached my ears. "Willow, when are you planning to divorce him? Don't tell me you've actually developed real feelings for him after all this time." After a brief silence, Willow's clear, pleasant voice replied, "How could that be? George is nothing compared to you. If it weren't for the engagement, I would never have married him in the first place. Makoto, you've just taken over the company. Everything is still unstable. I need to stay by your side to help you keep him in check, separated only by a door." I heard every word clearly. A rush of blood surged backward in my veins, dizziness washing over me, and I had to be supported by a passing waiter. "Mr. Wong, are you all right?" I forced myself to stand firm. "I'm fine," lifting my reddened eyes. I saw a commotion at the entrance, my mother and father handing out tips to the staff, faces beaming with joy. I stood there, watching the scene unfold, my eyes growing more and more stinging. It wasn't until my father noticed me that he forced an awkward smile. "George, why are you here?" They had deliberately hidden the celebration from me, afraid I would come and cause a scene, yet I still showed up at the banquet hall. Looking at my father's embarrassed face and my mother's displeased expression, I felt utterly out of place. "I'm here to show support for my brother," I said, voice hoarse, gaze dark and wet. "Or am I so worthless now that I'm not even allowed to attend a family gathering?" My pale face made it impossible not to feel pity. My mother frowned. And just as a storm seemed imminent, a cheerful shout sounded behind me. "Grandma, Grandpa. In craft class today, I made a little red flower for Uncle. I want to give it to the one I love most." Alicia came running over, mistaking me for Makoto, and jumped into my arms with a bright, innocent smile. This lively, affectionate look, I hadn't seen it since she was a baby. Back then, that chubby little thing had clung to me wherever I went. But now, the moment Alicia looked up and realized it was me, she recoiled as if she had seen a ghost. She hid the handmade flower behind her back. Her eyes filled with disgust and wariness. A searing, unspeakable pain pierced my heart. I stood there, silently watching. At that moment, the door to the private room opened. Makoto and Willow walked out, shoulder to shoulder. The moment they saw me, both of their faces changed. Willow's eyes flickered with panic. She immediately distanced herself from Makoto, hurried over to me, and asked gently, "When did you get here? Why didn't you come inside?" I stared at this woman with whom I had shared a bed for 7 years. Once, I had thought her coldness was just her nature. Now I realized, her indifference was because she had never loved me at all. This marriage had only been her compromise, a sacrifice to protect another man. The corners of my lips curled into a mocking smile, my eyes full of bitter disappointment. "This is your family gathering," I said. "How could I dare intrude?" Hearing that, Willow froze, an inexplicable tightness gripping her chest. "George, don't say that." No amount of comforting words could heal the wound in my heart. I turned to look at my parents, my voice calm. "I still have things to do. I won't disturb your family reunion." As I finished speaking, a violent cough suddenly shook my body, and I quickly covered my mouth. A spurt of fresh blood gushed into my palm. My mother and father's expressions changed slightly. Even Willow's fingers twitched instinctively. Just as everyone was about to step forward to check on me, Makoto suddenly clutched his chest and cried out in pain. "Mom, Dad. My heart, it hurts." At his cry, everyone's attention immediately shifted away from me. My mother hurried to call an ambulance. My father anxiously rubbed his chest to help him breathe. Willow ran off to buy emergency medicine, and Alicia was bawling, tears streaming down her face as she chanted, "Uncle, don't hurt, don't hurt." I'll let my dad hurt for you instead. I hadn't walked far. But hearing Alicia's words felt like my feet were filled with lead. I closed my eyes, gritting my teeth as I forced myself to keep walking. Hailing a cab by myself and heading alone to the hospital. Chapter 4. The doctor said that my heart had suffered from acute emotional distress, and that I must not get angry anymore. I stayed home to recover for several days. Other than the housekeeper, neither Willow nor any of the Wong family members came to see me. They were all at the hospital, keeping Makoto company. No one even remembered that I was sick too. On New Year's Eve, I was home alone, cooking frozen dumplings. All the maids had left early to spend the holiday with their families. Fortunately, the housekeeper, seeing how thin and weak I had become, had made some dumplings in advance and left them in the freezer. I silently watched the steam rise from the pot, the only source of warmth in the entire house. A few days ago, the property management had suddenly notified me that the heating was being cut off. Even after several complaints, they insisted it couldn't be restored. I knew very well this was likely Makoto's doing. Outside, the temperature was below -10 degrees Celsius. And indoors it felt almost the same as outdoors. Wearing a thick down jacket, I was just about to scoop out the dumplings when Makoto's video call came through. Brother, we're celebrating New Year on an island. Are you doing okay alone at home? On the screen, Makoto looked healthy and radiant, wearing a fitted cashmere sweater that was both warm and stylish. Behind him, my mother and father were sipping tea and chatting. And outside the floor-to-ceiling windows, Willow and Alicia were lighting fireworks. The warm, joyful atmosphere made my eyes sting, but none of it had anything to do with me. Once again, my entire family had abandoned me, leaving me alone in the cold while they enjoyed a cozy holiday on a tropical island. Yet strangely, I no longer felt sad. I calmly looked into the camera. I'm doing great, sorry to disappoint you. Makoto smirked provocatively. Brother, I heard you coughed up blood the other day. Too bad Mom and Dad were too busy worrying about me to notice. Afraid you might be scammed by some shady doctor. I've frozen your bank cards. If you feel really bad, just drink more hot water. Heh. Ever since he took over the company, he didn't even bother to pretend anymore. A shadow flickered across the screen, and Willow's voice drifted over. Makoto, who are you talking to? No one. Just wishing a friend Happy New Year, Makoto said casually, then hung up the call. But even so, I still heard Willow's final words of concern. Your stomach's weak. Don't drink too much. Be careful not to get a stomachache. They were as close as any real couple. I no longer cared who Willow loved. What I couldn't accept was, even in front of my parents, their intimacy was so blatant. And the two elders turned a blind eye, as if it were completely normal. A sharp pain spread through my limbs, and tears welled up in my eyes. At that moment, the doorbell rang. The old butler from the Chan family arrived, bringing a heap of New Year's gifts. Gifts that Madame Chan had prepared to make up for every New Year she had missed from my birth until now. At age 30, Happy New Year, Mr. Wong. Madam wishes you all the best, peace and joy. I had endured my biological family's coldness and betrayal again and again, but facing these carefully prepared gifts, my tears suddenly burst forth uncontrollably. In my 30 years of life, my biological parents had treated me as nothing more than a tool, while Madame Chan, who shared no blood with me, treated me like a true son. Deeply moved, I wiped away my tears and said solemnly, 10 days from now, I'll be at the Chan residence, right on time. By then, I would truly be reborn. I had only opened half the gifts before I drifted into a deep sleep on the sofa. In the middle of the night, I was jolted awake by a noise upstairs. I was a light sleeper. As soon as I opened my eyes, I saw a shadowy figure wandering in the dark. Suddenly, a memory from my past life hit me. A thief had broken into my home once. That time, a strange woman had barged into my bedroom. And when Willow caught us, she assumed I had been unfaithful. From then on, our relationship had soured. Soon after, rumors about me spread throughout our social circle. The entire Wong family treated me like a disgrace. And combined with Makoto's arson scandal at the time, they had tacitly allowed me to take the blame. This time, I reacted quickly. I dashed into the first-floor bathroom, called the Chan family, and asked the butler to immediately return with reinforcements. Just as the strange woman was about to smash a window and force her way in, the butler and his men arrived and pinned her to the ground. After giving my statement at the police station, I returned home past midnight. As soon as I stepped inside, I saw Makoto and the others sitting neatly in the living room, waiting for me. The New Year's gifts from Madame Chan were also neatly stacked in the corner. Makoto picked up a limited edition watch, his eyes wide with amazement. Brother, we weren't even home for New Year's. Who sent you such expensive gifts? If I'm not mistaken, this watch is one of those rare collector's editions everyone dreams of, right? Brother, you wouldn't happen to be cheating on sis-in-law behind her back. would you? Makoto trailed off, giving Willow a meaningful look. Willow's beautiful face clouded over with anger. Lifting her gaze, she said coldly, George, I really underestimated you. Chapter 5. Watching her act so serious, I couldn't help but find it funny. Even though she didn't have me in her heart, she could still get furious at the thought that I might be cheating. If I hadn't overheard her saying she had never loved me that day, maybe I would have believed there was a shred of real affection. These gifts belong to a friend. I'm just keeping them for now. My tone was casual. I didn't care whether they believed me or not. The wound on my arm throbbed painfully, and as I was about to grab the first aid kit, Willow suddenly grabbed my wrist. She wasn't her usual gentle self. Her eyes were dark and unfamiliar. Her lips pressed tightly together. After a moment, she pointed at the women's shawl on the floor and questioned me coldly. What kind of woman leaves her shawl at a male friend's house? She tightened her grip. As I struggled, my wound was tugged, sending a sharp pain shooting through me. I gasped involuntarily. Willow immediately let go, looking at me strangely. I didn't even use any strength, she muttered, as if explaining to herself, but when she saw the blood oozing from my arm, her expression changed drastically. She frowned and asked, You're hurt? How could you even get injured at home on New Year's Eve? She looked at me with a mix of disdain and concern, her fingers hesitantly reaching toward my wound. Before she could touch me, I lifted my cold gaze to meet hers. Willow's hand froze midair. What's with that look? She asked. After a long moment of staring, I turned and walked to the first-floor bathroom, pulling the door open with a loud bang. The wreckage inside immediately caught Willow's eyes. My mother and father looked equally stunned. Seeing their reactions, I let out a cold laugh. A burglar broke in. I almost didn't live to see tomorrow, and all you could think about since earlier was catching me cheating. My mother and father exchanged a glance but said nothing. Willow let out a soft sigh and walked toward me, her voice filled with guilt. I'm sorry. I shouldn't have left you alone at home. Save those words for after I'm dead. I felt nothing inside. My gaze turned cold as I looked at Makoto. I'm curious, I said slowly. Security in this upscale neighborhood is notoriously tight. Why would a woman risk breaking in on New Year's Eve? Did she know ahead of time that I'd be the only one at home? At my words, Makoto's eyes flickered for a split second before he forced a calm reply. Maybe she had been keeping an eye on you for a while. Or maybe you two knew each other before, who knows? I let out a short, mocking laugh and nodded. Fine. If she's that dangerous, we should file a police report and open an investigation. Don't report it. Makoto's voice suddenly rose sharply. His unusual reaction made everyone look at him. My mother and father seemed to realize something. Their faces turned pale. As Makoto grew so anxious he was about to cry, they rushed to comfort him, wiping his tears and turning to me with a half-coaxing, half-threatening tone. The woman's already caught. What's the point of making a scene? Do you think it'll be something to be proud of if this gets out? George, just let it go. All right. I used to think that my parents favored Makoto simply because they didn't see his true colors, so I tore off Makoto's mask right in front of them. Yet when their own son had nearly been ruined, they still chose to protect the very one who started it all. Why? A tearing pain split through my mind. I stared at them, my eyes filled with countless invisible blades, cutting away the last sliver of attachment I had to the Wong family. A slender hand draped over my shoulder, and Willow's voice sounded by my ear. George, as long as you're okay, I'll handle the police and everything else. I promise you'll never be in danger again. All right. She was afraid too, that if we pressed charges, Makoto would be implicated. The pain in my chest intensified. As I turned and was about to push Willow away, someone slammed hard into my lower back. I crashed to the ground, the searing pain in my spine sharp, but not as piercing as the words Alicia screamed while crying. Bad daddy, it's you. You bullied uncle and made him cry. Beat him. Beat the bad daddy. Alicia, despite Willow pulling her back, kept struggling, kicking at me with her little legs. At that moment, the world slowed down around me. All I could see was Alicia and Willow. All I could hear was that shrill cry. Beat him. Beat the bad daddy. Suddenly, tears slipped from the corner of my eyes. Something inside me swelled unbearably fast. My heart could no longer keep up, and the suffocating feeling grew stronger and stronger. A few seconds later, I could no longer hold on. Darkness swallowed my vision, and I passed out. Chapter 6. When I woke up again, I was in a hospital room. The warm breath I exhaled misted up the oxygen mask, forming a thin layer of white fog. My body felt unbearably heavy, as if filled with lead. Even moving a fingertip was a struggle. A nurse, noticing I was awake, immediately walked over. Mr. Wong, you're finally awake. You've been unconscious for 3 days. Mrs. Chan came by several times. If you hadn't woken up, the entire hospital staff would have been ready to jump off the roof. Her words made me laugh weakly. I asked in a frail voice. Besides Mrs. Chan, did anyone else visit? The nurse shook her head. No, I've been here the whole time. I didn't see anyone else. It was your housekeeper who called the ambulance. Luckily, the internal bleeding was cleared in time, or else you would have spent the rest of your life as a vegetable. I frowned. I remembered collapsing at home, with the whole family present. Yet after I fainted for so long, not a single family member came to the hospital. A chill rose in my chest. I remembered the doctor's orders not to get agitated, so I silently took a deep breath and forced myself to calm down. I lay in the hospital bed until nightfall. During that time, Mrs. Chan called upon hearing that I had woken up. After expressing a few words of concern, her tone shifted to one of deep anger when she mentioned Willow. That girl from the Liu family, she's absolutely outrageous. You nearly lost your life, and she's still hovering around that Makoto. I'm going to teach the Liu family a lesson and give you justice. At first, I didn't know what she was talking about. I was still puzzled when Makoto suddenly sent me a video. In the video, he was also in a hospital room, wearing a patient gown. His damp bangs clung to his pale forehead, making him look pitifully weak. By his bedside, my mother and father sat with red, swollen eyes from crying. A slender woman's hand patiently spoon-fed Makoto some soup. On her left hand, the wedding ring she wore was identical to mine. Who else could it be but Willow? After sipping the soup, another small hand reached out, offering a peeled orange, perfectly cleaned without a trace of white pith, to his mouth. A child's voice softly murmured, "Uncle, please get better soon. I don't want you to be sick." So, the reason the whole family hadn't shown up was because Makoto had been hospitalized too, and they had all been with him. I closed my eyes and turned off the video. Family affection had already become a luxury I could no longer afford. All I wanted now was a bit of peace. Yet even such a simple wish couldn't be granted. Shortly after sending the video, Makoto and the others came pushing his wheelchair into my hospital room. "George." Willow's voice was hoarse, looking at me as if she wanted to say something but couldn't. There were faint dark circles under her eyes. In just 3 days, she had become noticeably thinner, her face visibly worn and exhausted. Seeing the whole family assembled like this, a bad feeling rose in my chest. Before I could speak, Makoto suddenly knelt beside my bed, crying, "Brother, I've been diagnosed with a terminal illness. I don't have much time left." As soon as he finished speaking, my father covered his face and began to sob uncontrollably. My mother sighed heavily, patted my father's shoulder, and looked at me with reddened eyes. "We came here today to ask a favor," she said tearfully. "We want to borrow Willow for a little while, to take a set of memorial photos with Makoto before he passes." Memorial photos. The absurdity of the request made me sit there silently for a long moment, making sure I hadn't misheard. Looking at the family's expressions, faces full of certainty that I would agree, I let out a cold laugh and said with biting sarcasm, "And what if I say no? George, how can you be so heartless? Your brother is dying." My father rushed at me, shouting with bloodshot eyes, the shock and disgust in his expression barely contained. Through his furious gaze, I saw my own colorless, blood-drained reflection. I spoke calmly, "You can spoil him all you want. That's none of my business. But as long as Willow and I are still legally married, I will never agree to this ridiculous request unless..." I looked up at Willow, my gaze icy. "Unless we get divorced." Willow froze for a few seconds. Maybe it was my imagination, but it seemed as if her pupils trembled slightly, a flash of anger briefly crossing her eyes. After a moment, her red lips parted, and her voice came out cold and clear. "Fine, let's get a divorce." Chapter 7. George. I'm not just going to take wedding photos with Makoto. This time, I'm going to give him a grand wedding. That day in the hospital room, Willow left me with those words before helping Makoto away. In the now empty ward, I was the only one left. I sat there in a daze for a long time, so long that even my tears had dried, before I finally made up my mind. At dawn, a taxi pulled up in front of the luxurious villa. Wearing nothing but a thin hospital gown, I got out of the car, looked up at the house that had once been my and Willow's marital home, and tightened my grip around the lighter in my palm before stepping inside. Traces of a family life were everywhere inside the house. Alicia's favorite doll still lay on the carpet. The graffiti on the wall hadn't been cleaned. Willow's shawl was casually draped over the back of the sofa. Just a few days ago, mother and daughter had been playing house together in the living room. My throat moved slightly as I tore my gaze away and headed upstairs. I went straight to the master bedroom's walk-in closet. Among the rows of expensive suits, I quickly found a cheaply made white blazer, ordinary in craftsmanship. It was the one I had bought during our honeymoon in Las Vegas the year Willow and I got married. That night had coincided with a mass wedding event in Las Vegas. The entire street was ablaze with lights. I had randomly bought a white blazer from a street vendor and pulled Willow into the crowd to join the festivities. We were both drunk that night, dancing wildly among strangers. After one dance, Willow's hand around my waist refused to let go. Her bright, intoxicated eyes looked up at me with a tenderness deep enough to drown in. She said she thought she had really fallen in love with me. Back then, I didn't understand. Now, I finally did. It was also that night that Willow conceived Alicia. They say that children born from love are especially beautiful. Alicia, as a child, had a round little face, pale soft skin, and bright, lively eyes like grapes, adorable and clever. She truly was a beautiful child, but just like her mother, her eyes and heart were always full of Makoto. I took the white blazer in our wedding photo to the garden. These two things that had once meant so much to me were instantly consumed by flames when I lit the fire. At the end, a gust of wind scattered the ashes. My ties with Willow and Alicia were completely severed. I was about to leave when I suddenly heard noises at the door, followed by bursts of cheerful laughter. Alicia, your mommy and daddy are getting divorced. How about uncle becomes your new daddy? That gentle voice, reaching my ears, felt like a knife stabbing straight into my chest. The next second, Alicia cried out excitedly. Okay, Alicia doesn't like daddy. Alicia loves uncle. Alicia wants uncle to be her daddy. Makoto sounded so smug, his voice dripping with sugary coaxing. Good girl, go take your bath now. After you finish, I'll reward you with a chocolate candy. He spoke in the same tone people use to train a dog. Alicia noticed nothing wrong. Her tiny figure, not even tall enough to reach the doorknob properly, toddled off to the bathroom to run the water herself. Hiding in the guest room, I felt an inexplicable wrenching pain in my chest. Just as Willow entered, after parking her car, a figure rushed into her arms. Makoto hugged her slender waist, his tone full of fawning eagerness. Willow, I've waited so long for this day. As he spoke, he impatiently began unbuttoning Willow's clothes, his voice low and coaxing. I've got a surprise prepared for you tonight. Willow's cheeks flushed slightly, but she pressed his hand down, her voice soft and gentle as she reminded him. Alicia hasn't gone to bed yet. Don't let the child see. Alicia's being such a good girl. She just asked to take a bath by herself, Makoto said, his eyes burning. Why don't we head back to the bedroom? Makoto wrapped his arms around Willow's neck, and the two of them kissed and tangled their way to the master bedroom. After I heard the master bedroom door slam shut, I waited a few more moments before stepping out of the guest room. My face was so pale it made me look even worse than I had in the hospital. Lifting my gaze toward the second-floor master bedroom, my eyes were filled with nothing but disgust. I was about to leave when suddenly, a sharp scream came from the bathroom. Chapter 8, Alicia. I rushed into the bathroom and, through the rising steam, saw Alicia lying on the floor. I quickly helped her up, but as soon as Alicia saw my face clearly, she pushed me away forcefully. Who told you to come back? I have a new daddy now. I don't need you anymore. The distance in her eyes pierced deep into my heart, waking me up completely. I let go of Alicia, stood up, and said with chilling calmness, "You're right. Since you have a new daddy now, you no longer need my protection." Before leaving, out of the last shred of fatherly duty, I reminded her, "Eating candy before bed will rot your teeth. Be careful not to get cavities." That was the last thing I ever said to Alicia. Sopping wet, Alicia watched my back as I left, feeling a strange unease, but thinking of her handsome, gentle uncle, she quickly forgot about it. The wedding between the Wang and Liu families was a modest affair. After all, in the eyes of the world, this marriage was far from honorable. Yet Makoto still posed elegantly for the wedding photos in his suit and sent them all to me. Bro, my wedding's about to start. It's a pity you won't be here. I look pretty handsome in a suit, don't I? Willow says I'm even more handsome than you were back then. As I received those messages, I was standing at a private airfield, about to board a helicopter. I carried only a small briefcase. Inside were documents that determined the life and death of the Wang family's business empire. Looking at the constant stream of notifications, I chuckled sarcastically. Then, I pulled out my SIM card, snapped it in half, and tossed it into a trash can. I instructed the security team from the Chan family's confidential unit, "Please release the news of my death half an hour after takeoff and make sure Makoto receives my parting gift." The team leader gave a slight bow. "Understood, young master." The helicopter awaited me at the red-carpeted stairs. I stepped up and took one last look at the sky above City A. It was as blue as it had been the day I was brought back to my parents. But this time, I was leaving it forever. 2 hours later, the plane touched down, and George completely vanished from existence, replaced by David, the newly recovered heir of the Chan family. As for Willow and Makoto, it wouldn't be long before they tasted betrayal and abandonment. The Wang family's business empire would soon be swallowed by the brutal corporate world. I would make sure everyone who had ever hurt me knew just how cold and cruel the rain was when there was no one left to shield them. Willow, linking arms with my mother, slowly walked along the floral path. Little Alicia, dressed as a flower girl, scattered handfuls of petals into the air. Step by step, Willow approached Makoto. In front of her was the man she had loved for 10 years, yet for some reason, her heart felt strangely empty. Images of George in his wedding suit kept flashing in her mind. At that moment, the big screen at the wedding suddenly lit up. George's face appeared. "Hello, everyone. I'm Makoto's older brother, George. I'm sorry I couldn't make it to the wedding, because I'm already dead." The venue erupted into chaos. Willow stood frozen in place, the ring slipping from her fingertip and falling to the ground with a sharp clink. Chapter 9. George unfolded a medical report. The words, "Stage 3 leukemia," and "1 month left to live" were clearly visible. With a pale, bloodless face, he spoke slowly. "Mom, Dad, I was too petty. Even when Makoto was supposedly terminally ill, I still refused to lend him my wife for wedding photos. But it's fine now. I've given her to him completely. You won't blame me anymore, will you? Congratulations to my ex-wife and my brother. I wish you a long and happy life together." As George finished speaking, 2 streams of blood suddenly poured from his nose. He quickly covered his face and cut off the recording. The screen went dark, leaving the entire hall in a heavy, deathly silence. Willow stood there, full of disbelief. An unspeakable sourness overwhelmed her chest, and the ring slipped once again from her fingers, falling onto the floor. My mother and father were equally stunned, so shocked they couldn't speak for a long time. It wasn't until Alicia walked over and innocently asked, "Grandma, Grandpa, what does cremation mean?" Everyone finally snapped out of it, only to feel a stabbing pain deep in their hearts. How can a sister-in-law marry her husband's brother when her husband isn't even cold in the ground yet? The Wong family has truly gone mad. A respected elder stood up angrily, followed by other guests leaving in disgust. In the blink of an eye, the banquet hall, originally meant to accommodate hundreds, became cold and deserted. Makoto's face twisted as if he had swallowed a fly. In his heart, he cursed George 1,000 times over. Why? Why couldn't he just die quietly? Why did he have to ruin everything even at death's door? Wong's father, choking with sobs, said, "Why didn't that child tell us he was sick?" Makoto's heart skipped a beat. He quickly suppressed his anger and looked at Wong's father with a face full of aggrieved innocence. "Dad, my brother willingly divorced Willow, but now he's pulling this stunt at the wedding. Isn't it just to get back at me? I don't care if he humiliates me, but what about the Wong family's reputation?" Just as he finished speaking, a sharp, cold laugh echoed from the audience. Everyone turned to realize someone had not left yet. A tall woman in a sharply tailored black suit, exuding a powerful, commanding presence, walked slowly toward them. Her phoenix-like eyes swept over Makoto, making his spine stiffen with fear. Willow frowned, her voice indifferent. "Who are you? You're not on the guest list." The woman, radiating the effortless poise and disdain of someone born to power, replied in a frosty voice, "You're not worthy of knowing my name. You." Willow lunged forward, trying to grab the woman's arm. Before she could touch her, several bodyguards immediately pinned her to the ground. The sudden confrontation made Makoto stumble back a step, pale as a sheet. Who are you?" The woman curled her lips in a mocking smile, raising her left hand slightly. A silver family ring on her index finger gleamed under the light. When the Wongs and Willow saw the ring, their faces turned from anger to shock. That was the family crest of the top-tier conglomerate, the Su family. Seeing their reactions, the woman sneered slightly, motioning the bodyguards to release Willow. She then tossed a thick stack of documents in Willow's face, her icy gaze sweeping over everyone present. "Open your eyes and see clearly. These are all the grievances George endured over the years. Everyone who bullied him, every last one, won't escape." With that, the woman turned away coldly, leading the bodyguards as they left, leaving behind only a hall full of stunned, speechless people. Chapter 10. Wong's father bent down and picked up the documents scattered on the ground. He vaguely caught sight of the words, "organ transplant," before Makoto suddenly snatched them from his hands. His face was bloodless, and he forced a smile in an attempt to hide his panic. "Dad, George's body is on the way to the crematorium. If we hurry, maybe we can still see him one last time." His hands holding the documents were trembling slightly. A flash of suspicion crossed Wong's father's eyes, but thinking of George being alone at the crematorium made his heart ache sharply. "You're right. We have to go to the crematorium now. We can't let George leave this world so lonely." The entire family immediately set out for the crematorium. The crematorium was located in a remote mountainous area on the outskirts. When they arrived, thick black smoke was already billowing from the chimney. Wong's mother and father froze in place, their voices choked with emotion. "George, how could he?" Willow grabbed a passing staff member by the collar, her eyes bloodshot. "Where is George's body? Did you already burn it?" The staff member was startled by her agitation and stammered as he handed over the death records. "We did receive a male body named George today. He had a surgical scar on the left side of his abdomen. He had undergone a liver resection surgery. I don't know if he's the person you're talking about." Wong's mother snatched the file away, the moment she saw George's photo attached. Her eyes turned red with tears. "It's George," She and Wang's father leaned in and scanned the details, quickly spotting the surgery records from 5 years ago. George had indeed undergone a liver resection. Back then, Wang's mother had urgently needed a liver transplant, but after George's surgery, he had rushed abroad for business negotiations, got caught in a regional conflict, and only returned safely after 3 months. He had never mentioned the surgery to avoid making his parents worry. However, what Makoto had told their parents was that George, terrified of the surgery, had refused to donate his liver and had run off abroad to hide. Both parents turned their shocked gazes toward Makoto. Makoto, didn't you say it was you who donated your liver to save your mother? That George ran away because he didn't want to help. Have you been lying to us all this time? Makoto was momentarily speechless, then forced himself to argue. I didn't lie. Bro really did go abroad back then. But the medical records were black and white proof George had undergone a liver resection. Who else could have saved their mother? Rage boiled up in Wang's father's chest. He stared at the boy he had loved and cherished for so many years, overwhelmed by an unbearable pain. You lying little bastard. Since Makoto was young and sickly, Wang's father had given him almost all his attention. Even after finding George, he had tried to treat both sons equally, perhaps even favoring Makoto a bit more. Never had he imagined that Makoto not only stole George's credit but also drove a wedge between George and the family, making Wang's mother believe George was a cold-hearted ingrate. That misunderstanding had led to their relationship growing colder and colder over the years. Thinking that his biological son had died of a terminal illness, lonely and abandoned, felt like someone had ripped a chunk out of Wang's father's heart. Panic flashed across Makoto's face. He knelt down, begging desperately, Dad, I didn't mean to deceive you. You raised me for so many years. If I could have saved Mom, I would have done it without hesitation, but I couldn't. Mom, Dad, George died because of his own illness. It had nothing to do with me. We can still be a happy family like before, right? I'm still your good son, okay? Hearing such shameless words, Wang's father's eyes burned with fury. He raised his hand and slapped Makoto hard across the face. Get out. Get out of the Wang family. From now on, we have no son like you. A red, swollen handprint immediately appeared on Makoto's face. He stared at Wang's father in disbelief, his brows furrowing tightly. You hit me. You're hitting me over something that happened so long ago. Wang's father, trembling with rage, charged forward to strike him again. You made George suffer so much. Why the hell shouldn't I hit you? Willow hesitated for a moment but still stepped forward to block Wang's father. Makoto, she glanced at Makoto. With his red, swollen face and disheveled appearance, he looked utterly pathetic. But to Willow, he now seemed completely fake. His tears were fake. His kindness was fake. Even his so-called love for her might have been fake. Only because of their long-standing childhood bond did she step in to protect him. Wang's father's eyes burned with anger and grief. Willow, are you really still trying to defend the men who caused George's death? Willow froze. Thinking of my death. Her gaze toward Makoto grew colder and darker. Silently, she stepped aside. Wang's father glared at Makoto, shouting, I was blind. I welcomed a wolf into my home. I only saw your true face after George died. I'll never forgive you. Hand over all the properties and shares under your name. Hearing this, Makoto wiped his tears and slowly stood up. He sneered with contempt. Uncle, that's not going to happen. Chapter 11. No one had expected Makoto to be this shameless. My father and he had a huge argument, tearing all pretense apart. The scene was as ugly as it could get. However, the company's shares and official seals were all in Makoto's hands. Even after several lawsuits, the Wang family lost every case. Wang's mother was so infuriated that she had a heart attack and was admitted to the ICU. After a frantic round of emergency treatment, she finally regained consciousness. When she woke up, her speech was slurred, but she kept calling George's name. Beside her, Wang's father's eyes were red with tears. It's all my fault. I couldn't see through him. Treated a thankless wolf like a treasure. Makoto had frozen all their accounts and used Wang's mother's life to threaten my father, forcing him to sell off his real estate, jewelry, and luxury cars to Makoto at dirt cheap prices. Nobody in City A is willing to lend you a penny now. Even if you wanted to go through formal auction procedures, it would take at least 6 months. You really think your wife's health will last that long? Are you willing to just sit back and watch her die in agony? My father stared at Makoto's cold, ruthless face, feeling the blood in his veins turn to ice. Clutching his chest, he said with a trembling voice, how could your heart be so vicious? Makoto smiled faintly. How can you blame me for being ruthless? You're the ones who were stupid. When I was still living under your roof, I had to flatter you, terrified you'd kick me out if I slipped up even once. Now that George is dead, why should I show you any respect? He tossed the asset transfer contracts at my father's feet, his voice impatient. My time is precious. Think carefully before you come begging. My father stared in disbelief at the boy he had once cherished so dearly, almost fainting from the blow. Without a second glance, Makoto turned and left. A while later, several security guards came and physically removed Wang's father from the company building. Wang's father never imagined that one day he would be thrown out of his own company. He wandered aimlessly toward the street, dazed. Just as a car was about to hit him, someone yanked him back. My father looked up at the young man who had saved him. The young man showed his press badge. "Are you Mr. Wang?" "I'm Maria, a journalist for the Stars Returning Home reunion program. We heard you adopted the current CEO Makoto about 15 years ago. Would you be willing to talk to us?" Upon hearing this, my father's eyes lit up, as if he had found a lifeline in a sea of despair. He nodded eagerly. Of course. Ask me anything, you want to know it. I'll tell you." That night, Makoto returned home and casually tossed his suit jacket aside. Willow still hadn't come back. Ever since the wedding, she had been finding excuses not to return home, either social engagements or business trips. Makoto, remembering how they had secretly gotten together behind George's back, was filled with suspicion, but he knew he was in no position to complain, so he buried his frustration deep inside. Just as he was stewing, Alicia ran over. "Daddy, can you tell me a story tonight?" Alicia's eyes and facial features looked so much like George's that Makoto froze for a moment, his face darkening. "A story." He grabbed the storybook, tore it into shreds with a few rough motions, and flung the pieces at Alicia's head. "You're not even my daughter. Why should I tell you a story?" Crying again. "I hate kids who cry." "Shut up, do you hear me?" Alicia's eyes widened in shock. The fierce, hostile man before her was nothing like the gentle uncle she remembered. Tears streamed down her face as she trembled uncontrollably. Makoto grabbed her arm and twisted it hard. "Stop crying. Wah. I want daddy. I don't want uncle, I want daddy." Alicia sobbed uncontrollably, her wails splitting the air. Makoto's head throbbed with rage, finally losing all patience. He grabbed her by the collar and tossed her into the bathroom. "You like crying so much? Cry all you want in there." Click, the door locked behind her. In the pitch-black bathroom, Alicia felt like monsters were lurking around every corner, ready to pounce. She screamed and cried until her voice went hoarse, but no one came to save her. Eventually, exhausted, she curled up in a corner and whimpered softly, "I want daddy. I don't want uncle." Meanwhile, at a private club, Willow checked her phone. It was 4 in the morning. Dawn was only an hour away. The screen was full of missed calls and messages from Makoto urging her to come home. Willow frowned and coldly switched off her phone. Her chest felt tight, as if something heavy were lodged inside. She sighed deeply. Since George's death and Makoto's move into her home, the two of them had been constantly fighting. When she was with George, they would talk endlessly about finance, music, international affairs. There was always something to share, but Makoto only cared about luxury cars, designer watches, status, and power. He had a constant need for control. Terrified Willow didn't have him in her heart. Conversations between them would break down within a few sentences. Arguments became more and more frequent. She would rather stay out all night than go home. The bitter fruit of betraying George had to be swallowed whole, no one else to blame. Images of George's smile, his voice, his warmth filled her mind, but he would never come back. Staggering slightly, Willow walked out of the lounge. At the end of the hallway, a familiar figure flashed past. Startled, she hurried after it. When she saw the man's sharply defined profile, her blood seemed to boil. "George." The man entered a private room guarded by 2 bodyguards. Willow rushed forward but was immediately blocked. "Miss, this is our young master's private room. No one is allowed in without his permission." Chapter 12. Willow noticed the badge on the bodyguard's chest. It bore the emblem of the Chan family. She suddenly remembered hearing a few days ago that Mrs. Chan had found her long-lost son. A shock ran through her. Could this man be the Chan family's heir, David? But how could 2 people look so alike? Willow quickly explained, "My name is Willow. I'm the CEO of Lu Capital. Please pass a message to young Master Chan. I'm only here to offer a toast." The bodyguard went inside briefly. When he returned, his face looked even more unpleasant. "Young Master Chan said he's never heard of Lu Capital and doesn't know you. He also said, 'Get lost.'" His words were exceedingly blunt. Willow frowned, just about to force her way in, when her phone suddenly rang. It was the housekeeper, sounding panicked. "Miss Lu, the young miss has run away from home with the master's memorial photo." Willow's heart dropped. Without wasting another second, she raced back home. Alicia was only 5 years old. Although mischievous at times, she was timid by nature, so timid she even needed someone to accompany her to the bathroom at night. Why would she run away without a reason? When Willow arrived home, her voice was low and stern. Did someone bully her? The servants hesitated, afraid to speak. Willow's tone hardened. "Speak. I promise no one will take it out on you." Finally, a maid stammered out. It was Mr. Wong. He locked Miss Alicia in the bathroom all night. When I found her in the morning, she was so scared she collapsed. I rushed to get the doctor, but by the time I returned, both Alicia and the master's memorial photo were gone. Hearing that Makoto had locked Alicia in a dark bathroom for an entire night, a surge of rage rushed through Willow. Her voice turned hoarse. Where is Makoto now? Mr. Wong just left. He said he has an important meeting this morning and couldn't miss it. Makoto. Willow roared and stormed out, heading straight for Wong Corporation. On the way, she contacted her best friend to help search for Alicia and messaged Wong's parents, asking if Alicia had gone to the old family home. When she learned Alicia wasn't there either, Willow's fury only grew. She barged into Makoto's office, only to see him passionately kissing a young female subordinate. Her anger exploded. Makoto. Do you even have a shred of conscience left? Makoto jumped in fright, hastily fixing his clothes. Willow, what are you doing here? Willow closed her eyes briefly, forcibly suppressing her anger. Her cold gaze swept toward the woman. Get out. The female subordinate, flustered and terrified, fled the office. Now, only Makoto and Willow were left in the room, the air thick with suffocating coldness. Willow advanced step by step, the icy look in her eyes sharp enough to cut holes through Makoto. A cold sweat broke out on Makoto's back. His voice trembled as he tried to explain. Wife, it's not what it looks like. I was just playing around. Or was it for work? Willow sneered. The next second, she grabbed Makoto by the collar, nearly slamming him against the wall. I must have been blind. I gave up George for you. If you want to throw yourself at anyone who crosses your path, I couldn't care less. But you dared to mistreat Alicia while I was gone. You scared her into running away. I swear, I'll make you pay for that. Makoto frantically shook his head. I didn't abuse Alicia. I just meant to lock her up for a little while. I didn't mean to forget her. Forget her? Willow's eyes burned red. Her teeth clenched so tightly it hurt. She's 5 years old. What kind of monstrous crime could she have possibly committed to deserve being locked up all night? She tightened her grip on Makoto's collar. Makoto's face turned red from lack of air, coughing and clawing at her hands. Through labored breaths, he croaked. She cried too much. Bastard. Hearing such a ridiculous excuse, Willow's fury boiled over. She slapped him, hard. The slap echoed through the office, leaving an angry, blood-red mark across Makoto's face. He stared at Willow, utterly stunned. You hit me. Don't forget, I control Wong Corporation now. If you want to fight me, I won't hesitate to drag the Liu family down with me. From the moment Willow stormed into the office and saw him in another woman's arms, Makoto had known she would lose control. He just hadn't expected her to actually lay hands on him. Makoto straightened up, laughing bitterly, resigned. Willow, I'm no longer the pushover you once knew. You'll pay for putting your hands on me. Willow raised her cold eyes, the ruthless look in them, something she had never shown Makoto before, making him feel a sudden, creeping sense of fear. Then go ahead, she said coldly. Try me. Chapter 13. Willow, anxious to find Alicia, shoved Makoto away and stormed out without looking back. Makoto rubbed his sore cheek, his teeth clenched tightly, hatred seething in his eyes. Willow's words echoed mercilessly in his ears. I must have been blind to give up George for you. She regretted it. She actually regretted it because of a dead man. Makoto's hands curled into fists so tight that his nails dug deep into his flesh. He gritted his teeth and muttered, Willow, just you wait. While he was consumed with thoughts of revenge, his assistant, Oscar, walked in and reminded him that he had a TV interview scheduled that afternoon. Makoto forced himself to calm down and went downstairs. A van from the TV station was already parked at the curb. Seeing it was the station's car, he got in without suspicion. When they arrived at the studio, the female host asked him a few standard questions at first, but then, her tone abruptly shifted. Mr. Wong, we've learned that you were adopted by the Wong family. Over the past decade, have you ever thought about meeting your biological parents? The hall fell into a dead silence. Makoto's heart skipped a beat, an ominous feeling washing over him. And then, his worst fear came true. The curtain slowly lifted. A shabby-looking couple with dark skin and worn-out clothes stepped onto the stage. The moment they saw Makoto, they rushed forward, putting on a heart-wrenching show of reunion. The woman clutched him tightly, sobbing so fiercely it seemed she would tear her heart out, yet not a single tear actually fell from her eyes. Makoto, I'm so sorry. Your father and I were too young. We couldn't afford to raise you back then. The woman slurred. Wailing cries echoed throughout the studio. The cameras zoomed in, capturing every twitch of Makoto's frozen expression. Makoto sat rigid in his seat, blood turning cold, staring in shock at the audience. In the front row, Wong's father gave him a cold, twisted smile. Makoto's gaze immediately hardened into icy fury. In a flash, he understood everything. It was Wong's father who had found his biological parents. colluded with the journalists, and set this whole trap to expose his true identity as an abandoned child to the entire world. From the moment he stepped into the studio, his life was already over. Meanwhile, 3 months ago, I had successfully completed my fake death plan. Now, I had been reborn as the Chan family's son, David Chan. Mrs. Chan, whose health was frail, now lived peacefully in Xiaotan Mountain. All family affairs were managed by me. Young Master Chan, tonight is the Eurasia Park Investment Gala. As a major investor, it would be best if you made an appearance, said Oscar, my assistant, nervously standing in front of me, facing me, dressed sharply in a tailored suit and focused on reviewing contracts. Oscar felt an inexplicable pressure. This gala would also be attended by Miss Su, the heiress of another major conglomerate. If I didn't show up, it would come across as arrogance, something that could easily offend important allies. Without lifting my head, I responded indifferently, "MHM." Oscar's eyes lit up. "Young Master Chan, does that mean you agree to attend?" I looked up slightly, raising an eyebrow. "Is there a problem?" "No problem. No problem at all. I'll prepare your suit and styling team right away. You're guaranteed to be the most dazzling person there." Hearing that, I shook my head helplessly. I was about to tell him to keep things low profile and avoid making a scene. But before I could speak, he had already dashed off in a frenzy. Chuckling to myself, I lowered my head to continue reviewing the documents when a video call request popped up. Initially, I didn't intend to answer, but my finger accidentally brushed the screen, and the call connected. A vibrant, stunning face filled the screen, delicate features, radiating youthful charm. Her previously frowning brows instantly relaxed upon seeing me pick up. Anna cleared her throat and, with a sweet voice, asked, "David, why are you ignoring me?" Anna was 3 years older than me. We had met at a bar the night I faked my death. I was in a terrible mood that night and had drunk a little too much. In the dim lighting, she had approached first. Long, seductive curls framed her face. Dazzling earrings dangled from her ears. Her striking beauty hit like a force of nature. For the first time in a long while, my heart had raced, caught up in the drunken haze and the ambiguous atmosphere. We spent a wild, reckless night together. Chapter 14. The next morning, I left a bank card with 200,000 yuan on her pillow, as a tip for the previous night. 200,000. Looks like you were very satisfied last night. Huh. At the time, I thought she was just a bar waitress. I didn't want to get tangled up, so I also wrote her a 1,000,000 yuan check as hush money. I never expected, 3 days later, at a Chan family banquet, she would appear again, this time as Miss Su, heiress of the Su family. And to make matters worse, the Chan and Su families were rivals in the business world, polite on the surface, hostile underneath. I regretted it deeply and tried to avoid her for several days. Finally, Anna lost her patience and threatened to drag her grandmother to the Chan family estate to propose marriage. I couldn't let that happen. "If you don't want a scene," Anna said shamelessly, her beautiful face full of mischief, "then give me a proper status. When we're together in private, you have to call me your girlfriend, or even your wife." I had no choice but to agree, but she pushed even further. "Half an hour of video calls every day, 2 days of dating every weekend, and if you go on a business trip, I'll fly to wherever you are. What's so clingy about that? You think you can just use me and disappear afterward? Fine, I'll go see Madame Chan tomorrow and demand justice." Because of her threats, I didn't even dare to answer her calls lately. Now, Anna leaned in close to the camera, her slender, fox-like eyes full of temptation. "Tonight, your place or mine? Pick one." I immediately caught the hidden meaning in her words. My body tensed slightly, though my face remained calm. "Anna, don't you think it's a bit much? I get that you're young and energetic, but maybe we should show a little restraint." Anna narrowed her eyes at me, smiling slowly. I wasn't afraid of her being direct. It was when she got sneaky that I felt a chill of dread. Sure enough, the next second, she stood up, wearing only a silk nightgown. The graceful line of her neck and shoulders revealed faint traces of a love bite, making my face burn instantly. "I'm going to visit Madame Chan right now," she said sweetly, "and tell her exactly how you bullied me last night." I was speechless. In the end, I could only give in to her unreasonable demands. After the banquet tonight, I would go home with Anna. Tonight's Eurasia Park Investment Gala was a grand event, drawing celebrities and media attention. The flashes of cameras were endless as stars and socialites made their entrances. But the moment the Su family's Bentley pulled up, the reporters swarmed outside like bees. Anna stepped out in an elegant black evening gown, her hair meticulously styled into a graceful updo. Her full forehead and perfectly proportioned features made her look noble and mysterious. Everywhere she passed, there were respectful greetings. "Miss Su, Miss Su." When I arrived at the venue, Anna hadn't gone far yet. We kept a few meters of distance between us, walking separately. Suddenly, one of the reporters shouted, "The Chan family's heir is here." Anna's previously distant, indifferent expression brightened slightly at the mention of my name. She paused, stopping in front of a fan who had stretched out a pen. Smiling faintly, she gracefully took the pen and signed her name with a grand flourish. Out of the corner of my eye, I caught her smirking playfully. I knew instantly she was doing it on purpose. I quickened my pace, trying to pass her quickly. Unexpectedly, my dress shoes slipped slightly on the carpet, and my body pitched forward. The next second, a hand caught my arm just in time. Anna lowered her gaze, a glint of amusement flickering in her eyes. Mr. Chan, can't even walk properly. Been working too hard lately. I glared at her. We locked eyes for just a few seconds, but the surrounding journalists frantically snapped away at their cameras. I didn't think much of the incident at first, until midway through the banquet. Anna sent me a screenshot of a trending Weibo post. Miss Su catches the falling Mr. Chan, a perfect match for a billionaire sibling romance. Seeing that, my vision went black. If Madam Chan saw this, she might faint from sheer anger. I quickly arranged for the hot search to be taken down and stepped out onto the balcony, preparing to call the old lady to gauge her mood. Not far away, I caught sight of a few adults surrounding a child, pushing and shoving him roughly while hurling vicious insults. Chapter 15. You little bastard. Stealing right from Grandpa's hands. Ah. Today we'll teach you a lesson your deadbeat parents should have. Several men raised their legs, about to kick the child. Stop, I barked sharply, frowning as I strode over. The child being beaten was filthy and scrawny, clutching a greasy chicken drumstick tightly in her hands. I turned my displeased gaze toward the adults. It's just a chicken leg. Is that really a reason to beat up a kid? Their faces immediately changed. The head chef, recognizing me as the young master of the Chan family, quickly stepped forward to explain. Mr. Chan, if it were just a few chicken legs, of course, we wouldn't resort to this. But this little thief keeps coming back to steal. Last time at a banquet, she took a whole crate of special grade sea cucumbers, worth tens of thousands. I turned to look at the little girl. She immediately buried her face in her arms, guessing she probably had no family to care for her. I sighed and ordered, bring her some food. As for the sea cucumber incident, have my assistant settle it later. Soon, the kitchen staff brought over plates of food. The little girl wolfed it down desperately. I couldn't bear to watch and gently patted her back. Slow down, there's plenty more. Gradually, she lowered her guard around me. It was only then I learned that her parents had passed away, and her grandmother, her last relative, had died just days ago. She had stolen the sea cucumbers to pay for her grandmother's hospital bills. Something inside me softened. I pulled out a handkerchief and wiped the food from the corner of her mouth. Startled, the little girl recoiled quickly. And no, don't. I'm dirty. I'll ruin your nice things. Seeing the fear in her eyes, I made a decision. I decided to adopt her. It wasn't until later, while helping her bathe, that I discovered she was actually a boy. My name's Lucas, he said, his voice soft. Grandma told me to pretend to be a girl. That way, no one would bully me. My heart twisted painfully. I reached out and hugged Lucas tightly. Lucas was far more sensible than most children. He dressed himself, folded his bedding, sat quietly doing homework at night, and ate only a little, trying his best to show he was easy to care for. To bond with him, I took him to an amusement park over the weekend. We rode the carousel together. Lucas wore a little blue prince outfit, with Mickey Mouse ears perched on his head, and for the first time, he smiled brightly into my camera. It was also the first time he ever said he wanted something, a simple ice cream cone. Good boy. Since this is your first time asking for something, you deserve another reward. I held Lucas's hand and led him toward the dessert shop inside the park. Not far away, Alicia watched the scene unfold. She frowned deeply, her big round eyes filling with tears, but remembering how Daddy hated children who cried, she pressed her lips together tightly and forced herself to hold it in. Daddy, she suddenly shouted and ran toward me. Lucas looked up in surprise, only to be shoved aside as Alicia threw herself into my arms, hugging my leg tightly. I froze for a second, startled. Ouch. Lucas tumbled onto the ground, letting out a small cry of pain. He quickly scrambled up. Even though his beloved prince outfit was now dirty, he didn't cry. He twisted his little hands together nervously, staring at Alicia. Alicia glared at him fiercely and snapped, "This is my daddy, you little thief." Hearing the word thief, Lucas's lips quivered. He couldn't hold back anymore and was about to cry. My heart ached. I pushed Alicia aside and walked over to scoop Lucas into my arms, speaking to him softly. "Don't cry, Lucas. I'm your daddy, only yours." At that moment, Alicia broke down. She stared at me in disbelief as I comforted Lucas, biting her lips hard as tears poured down her cheeks like strings of little pearls. But my attention was fully on Lucas. I didn't even spare Alicia a glance. Left with no choice, Alicia tiptoed over to me, tilting her head carefully, her little face full of grievance and cautious hope. "Daddy, I'm crying too." Won't you look at me? Don't you want me anymore? Chapter 16. I picked up Lucas and looked at Alicia expressionlessly. I don't know you. I only have a son. His name is Lucas. Little girl, you should hurry back to your family. Alicia's mouth trembled. She grabbed the hem of my clothes and started throwing a tantrum. You are my daddy. I'm not leaving. Uncle is a big bad guy. He locked me in a dark room and wouldn't even let me eat. He's a big meanie. Wah. I paused, stunned. Only then did I notice that Alicia's clothes were torn, and there were bruises on her legs. It was clear she really had run away from home. But in my previous life, hadn't Makoto spoiled her terribly? Could fate have changed? Even though I no longer regarded Alicia as my daughter, I still called the police and had them notify Willow. 10 minutes later, Willow rushed over in a panic. The moment Alicia spotted her, she shouted joyfully, "Mommy." Willow swept her into her arms, holding her tightly as Alicia sobbed brokenly in her chest. "Mommy, let's bring Daddy back home." "Okay." Uncle is so bad." Her daughter's cries felt like knives stabbing straight into Willow's heart. Holding back her own grief, Willow gently whispered, "Alicia, Daddy is already gone." "You're lying." Alicia screamed. "I just saw Daddy. He's mad at me. He was playing with another little boy, and no matter how hard I cried, he wouldn't look at me." Willow's heart pounded violently. She quickly knelt down and asked Alicia, "Alicia, you really saw Daddy?" Alicia nodded vigorously. "Cross my heart, only liars are puppies." Willow's heart raced uncontrollably. If Alicia said she saw George, then that night at the club, it wasn't just a hallucination or mistaken identity. But what did Alicia mean by saying George had a new child? Willow didn't have time to think it through. She grabbed Alicia and headed straight for the security room. Sure enough, on the footage, she saw the men who looked exactly like George. Without hesitation, she informed George's parents of the news. The next day, I went to the office as usual. The moment I stepped inside, someone pulled me into a hug. Anna's arms tightened around me, carrying the soft scent of flowers. Her body heat seeped through the thin layers of fabric, and her breath brushed against my ear. "Why did you stand me up the other night?" She bit my earlobe lightly, playfully, not painfully, making my ears burn red. I had something to deal with. My voice, under Anna's teasing fingers, suddenly dropped to a lower, hoarser register, deep enough to make her shiver slightly. Anna chuckled softly and whispered against my ear, "What could possibly be more important than a date with me? I adopted a kid." When I said that, Anna almost thought she had heard wrong. She felt a mix of confusion and amusement. Still hugging me, she teased seductively, "If you like kids that much, you should have told me earlier. We can make one ourselves." I elbowed her lightly. As she yelped in mock pain, I walked over to the desk, my tone returning to its usual coolness. "Didn't we agree? We don't interfere in each other's private lives." Anna snorted lightly. "Not interfering? Right. After just a few days apart, you come back with a kid. What's next? Are you going to pop up with a wife and toss me aside?" Her words were practically dripping with jealousy. I raised an eyebrow. "Who knows? Could happen." Chapter 17. I raised an eyebrow. "That's hard to say." My words caught Anna off guard for quite a while, but after a moment, she reconsidered. David had such high standards that no ordinary gold diggers would ever catch his eye. Besides, in this whole circle, who could be better than herself at making him happy? Anna, the eldest daughter of the Sioux family, started calculating in her mind, her scheming more active than even those mistresses who dreamt of climbing the social ladder. The office door was pushed open. Assistant Oscar entered with a bright smile, but the moment he saw Anna, his expression instantly darkened. He stared at her in shock for a few seconds before asking uncertainly, "Miss Sue, what are you doing here?" I glanced at Anna, signaling her with my eyes not to say anything wrong. After all, the two of us were still known enemies on the surface. Anna naturally understood what I meant. She quickly adjusted her expression back to her usual cold and aloof demeanor and replied indifferently, "Business negotiations." "Business negotiations?" Oscar sounded suspicious. "Are you planning to join young Master Chan in acquiring the Wong Corporation?" Upon hearing the name Wong Corporation, David narrowed his eyes and asked Oscar, "What happened to Wong?" Realizing that his young master was still unaware, Oscar stepped forward and lowered his voice to report, "The former president of the Wong Corporation, Makoto, has been sent to prison." "Prison?" David frowned at Oscar. "According to the memories of my previous life, Makoto's downfall shouldn't have happened for another 6 months. Why was it happening so early?" Oscar pulled up a trending episode of a recent missing persons reality show and handed his phone to David. "It's all because of this show." David fast-forwarded through it and watched briefly. On the show, Makoto's biological parents appeared and hugged him tightly on stage, crying uncontrollably. His expression turned from green to pale before he finally couldn't stand it anymore and shoved them away. "Biological parents? I don't even know you." Makoto glared at the female host. his voice trembling with rage. "Where did you dig up these random nobodies and claim they're my parents? I won't let this slide. I'll see you in court." The host, Maria, calmly pushed up her glasses and replied, "Mr. Wong, before inviting you to this show, we located your adoptive father, Mr. Wong, who provided a DNA sample. After comparison, we can confirm that you are indeed the child of this couple. If you have any doubts, feel free to request another paternity test. We are more than willing to meet you in court." At that moment, old Wong walked onto the stage, and his appearance greatly boosted the credibility of the host's words. "I can confirm everything the host said is true." Makoto lost control and demanded the cameras be turned off. However, his arrogant attitude only irritated everyone present. Not only did the cameraman refuse to stop filming, but they even zoomed in for close-up shots of his contorted, furious face. The unedited footage was later aired in full. That very day, Makoto's scandal shot to the top of the trending searches. Clips of his furious outbursts were turned into reaction memes and GIFs, spreading like wildfire across the internet. Makoto became a laughingstock overnight. He tried to fight back online, threatening to sue anyone using his memes. Unexpectedly, instead of intimidating netizens, it only triggered even greater backlash. To make an example, Makoto did sue a few people. Several netizens lost the lawsuits and were each ordered to pay Makoto 20,000 yuan in emotional damages. But this only fueled the public's anger even more. Soon, Makoto's darkest secrets were thoroughly exposed. During his time studying abroad, he had played with others' feelings, faked his academic credentials, embezzled his adoptive parents' assets, and even heartlessly refused to save them when they needed help. Shortly after his adoptive brother died, he married his own sister-in-law. These scandals utterly destroyed Makoto's reputation. Some even sent him razor blades and funeral wreaths, demanding he return the family estate to Mr. Wong. In the end, Makoto lost the lawsuit and completely disappeared from the public eye. Chapter 18. I wasn't surprised at all when I heard the result. The only thing I found a bit regrettable was the Wong Corporation itself. Anna lowered her head to check a message from Maria Ting on her phone. "Miss Su, the task you assigned is done." She lifted the corners of her lips slightly without a change in her expression and replied, "All right, you can come pick up my Lamborghini anytime." I was completely unaware of her secret moves behind the scenes. Hearing that Wong Corporation was undergoing bankruptcy liquidation, I became interested. "Go negotiate with the Wong side," I instructed. "Tell them we're willing to acquire it based on market valuation." "Understood, young Master Chan." Before leaving, the assistant gave Anna another gossipy glance. I leaned back in my chair and massaged my temples. It wasn't until a light floral fragrance drifted close that I remembered Anna was still here. As I lifted my head to look at her, she tiptoed and lightly kissed my forehead. "Are you really going to acquire Wong Corporation?" Anna leaned elegantly against the desk, supporting herself with one hand on the surface, and asked meaningfully. I looked up and asked her, "Do you want to compete with me?" Behind each of us stood powerful interest groups. The Su family wouldn't easily let go of such a fat piece of meat like Wong Corporation. I had always kept emotions and work strictly separate. No matter how compatible Anna and I were in bed, when it came to our own interests, I would never show mercy. Unexpectedly, Anna hesitated for a few seconds before giving a faint smile and saying slowly, "It was supposed to be a sure thing for me, but seeing that you want it so much, I'll back off." I was a little surprised by her willingness to yield. "You, me." Anna's slender fingertips brushed over my brows, her gaze oddly gentle. "As compensation, have dinner with me tonight." Before I could agree, her fingertip pressed against my lips, and she whispered close to my ear, "Tonight, you have to feed me until I'm full." My face suddenly flushed with heat. On the day of the Wong Corporation acquisition, I didn't appear in person. I only sent 2 senior executives to attend, overseeing the entire meeting through video call. On the computer screen, Mr. Wong and Willow entered the conference room together. The endless lawsuits in recent days had drained Mr. Wong. He looked far older and much more haggard. After reviewing the contract, Willow suddenly asked a question. "All the major companies are kicking them when they're down, slashing their offers. Why is your Chan Corporation willing to buy at market price?" The female executive from Chan Corporation closed the contract folder and smiled faintly. "That's our president's decision." Mr. Wong looked at Willow, recalling the photos she had shown him from the Asia-Europe banquet a while ago. Photos where the young master of the Chan family looked exactly like me. His eyes suddenly turned red. Before the Chan Corporation team left, he grabbed the female executive, looking both ashamed and hopeful, and asked, "Could you tell your president maybe we could all have a meal together sometime?" The female executive didn't respond. Instead, she looked at the camera. From the other side of the screen came a cold male voice. "No need." Mr. Wong instantly fell silent. Bitterness surged into his heart as he turned away and wiped his tears. After the screen went black, I looked toward the bathroom. There, Anna sat with a black silk blindfold over her eyes and satin ribbons tying her wrists and ankles. I narrowed my eyes. Anna, just how many more tricks do you have up your sleeve that I don't know about? Anna walked over and knelt in front of me, planting a soft kiss on the back of my hand. That's something you'll have to discover yourself. As she spoke, her hand slid up along my thigh, parting them with an irresistible assertiveness. My breath caught, my body grew hotter under her guidance, and I frowned slightly, staring at her blindfolded eyes. Anna at this moment was overwhelmingly aggressive. It felt as if her searing gaze could pierce right through the thin fabric and land directly on my body. That night was one of utter wildness and indulgence, not ending until dawn. In the morning, I was awakened by a rhythmic knock on the door. Still with my eyes closed, I shifted slightly. My whole body ached as if I'd been run over by a truck. I groaned softly and pushed away Anna's arm that was draped across my waist. At that moment, the old steward's voice came from outside. "Young master, Madam is here." Chapter 19. The news that Madam Chan had arrived jolted me completely awake. I glanced at Anna, who was still sound asleep beside me, my heart pounding. Just as I was about to wake her up, Anna stretched out her arms and pulled me back into her embrace, her voice drowsy and lazy. "Baby, let's sleep a bit more." Before she could finish, I clamped my hand over her mouth. Anna's eyes snapped open, just in time to see my slightly flushed face as I whispered urgently, "Madam's here. You'd better stay here and not come out. If she finds out about us." I didn't finish the sentence. Anna raised an eyebrow, grabbed my wrist, and asked in a teasing whisper, "Find out about what?" She knew exactly what I meant but still asked on purpose. Ignoring her, I got out of bed to get dressed. The more tense I was, the more relaxed Anna appeared. Even though Madam Chan's trusted steward was right outside, she still lay lazily on the bed, propping her head up and leisurely watching me get dressed. Before leaving, I picked up a pillow from the floor and threw it at her. As soon as I stepped out, the old steward coughed awkwardly. "Young master, Madam is waiting for you in the back garden." Got it. I hurried to the back garden and saw an elegant figure dressed in a cheongsam feeding the koi fish. Madam Chan was nearly 70 years old now, but she still carried herself with grace and had aged well. "Mom," I greeted, standing obediently to the side. Madam Chan tossed away the fish food and sat under the parasol. She gestured for me to sit down too. Sit. She rarely sought me out except during holidays, and even then she usually sent someone ahead to inform me. This sudden visit was very unusual. Madam Chan remained silent for a long time. I picked up my teacup and had just taken a sip when she asked abruptly, "How long have you been seeing that Sue girl?" I nearly spat out my tea. I hesitated, unsure whether to tell the truth, but before I could speak, Madam Chan continued, "You don't have to hide it from me. It's natural for men and women to fall in love. I can't stop you, but of all the women out there, you had to fall for that little vixen from the Sue family. Do you have any idea how devious she's been since she was a child? You might be brilliant at business, but your ability to judge people still needs work. That girl could wrap you around her finger with just a few sweet words." "David, while there's still time, cut her off cleanly." Just as her voice fell, a clear and lively voice came from behind. "Madam, as the old saying goes, it's better to tear down a temple than to break up a marriage. Why are you talking bad about the younger generation behind their backs?" I turned and saw Anna, and my mind blanked out completely. Only one word echoed inside: "Screwed." I jumped up immediately, grabbed her and tried to push her out the door, my face cold and my voice low with anger. "Anna, who told you to come out? Get out, now." But how could I possibly push Anna away when she was in a temper? Not only did she refuse to back off, she instead grabbed my wrist and interlaced her fingers with mine, walking boldly up to Madam Chan. Madam Chan slowly raised her head. Years of experience had given her an air of authority that made people's scalps tingle. I went pale. "Mom, I'm sorry. It's not his fault." Anna stood tall and straight, meeting Madam Chan's gaze directly, speaking clearly and steadily. "I was the one who seduced David. I chose him. I like him. I'm determined to be with him for the rest of my life. If you want to punish someone, punish me. It has nothing to do with David." My heart, which had been filled with panic, suddenly calmed down when I heard her words. I turned and looked at Anna in surprise. Anna glanced back at me and gently squeezed my hand. Madam Chan narrowed her eyes, her voice icy as she said, "You Sue family people sure have a tradition of stealing from the Chan family, don't you?" Over 30 years ago, Madam Chan's adopted younger brother had been stolen away by the Sue matriarch. Now her adopted son was about to be stolen away by that woman's granddaughter. She really couldn't understand what was wrong with the Sue family. Anna's face was open and fearless, but what she said next sent a jolt through my heart. "Well, who could blame us? The Chan family produces such outstanding people, it's only natural for others to admire them." But, she added, "when I first met David, he wasn't even called Chan yet." Chapter 20. Anna first met me in a secluded alley. At that time, she was being hunted down by her enemies, badly injured and believing she was about to die. That's when I appeared, wearing my school uniform. The teenage boy's face was clean and delicate, and his voice was clear and gentle when he spoke. That day, when I took off my uniform jacket to help stop Anna's bleeding, the faint scent of soap from the fabric drifted into her nose, something she could never forget, even now. Later, Anna got into some trouble and was sent abroad to study by her family's matriarch. By the time she returned, he had already married someone else. Anna waited for all these years, and now that he was finally single again, never mind that he was the adopted son of her family's sworn enemies, even if he demanded her life, she would willingly give it to him. After hearing her story, Madame Chan fell silent once again, but I remained frozen for a long time. After a while, my eyes turned slightly red, and I asked, "You were that girl who used to follow me around back then?" After being taken back to the Chan family, Makoto often ordered a gang of punks to bully me, but later, there was a sharp-eyed girl with short, neat hair who, ever since I saved her once, would silently wait at the school gate after classes and follow behind me all the way home without saying a word. Upon hearing what I said, Anna frowned in disbelief. "What girl? I went to a prestigious private school." "Okay, we finished classes by 3:30 in the afternoon. I specifically made the trip just to wait for you." I pressed my lips tightly together, saying nothing, but the look in my eyes was filled with a joyful smile. At that moment, Madame Chan's voice came from the side. "I don't care what twisted fate ties you two together, as long as you're from the Su family. Don't even think about getting close to David." Anna's expression darkened. My face also grew grim, but I quietly let go of Anna's hand. I couldn't be ungrateful or cause Madame Chan heartbreak, unless, Madame Chan said, tossing a delicate dagger at Anna's feet, "You repay your grandmother's debt here and now, then I'll consider your marriage to David." Anna's gaze fell on Madame Chan's right hand, adorned with a jade bracelet. Years ago, Madame Su had stabbed her right hand with a hairpin. Now, the only way Anna could repay the debt was by crippling her own right hand. Anna turned to look at me, seeing my eyes rimmed red as I shook my head at her. Her heart twisted in pain. But compared to David, what was the loss of one hand? "Fine, let's settle the grudge between our families today." Saying that, she lifted the dagger and slashed toward her own right hand. "Don't." I lunged forward, covering her hand with mine. There was a soft click, the blade had retracted into the handle. Both of our hands remained unscathed. Anna and I stared blankly at Madame Chan, only to see her lightly humph, lift her teacup, take a slow sip, and say unhurriedly, "You've got some backbone, girl." I breathed a huge sigh of relief and smiled carefully as I asked, "And the grudge between the two families?" Madame Chan set down her cup, rose to her feet, and walked away, her voice trailing off into the distance. "Naturally, you'll have to help me settle it properly, after you marry her." Both of us knew, this was her way of giving her blessing. Anna threw herself into my arms, cradling my face and kissing me over and over again. Finally, she pressed her forehead against mine and said softly, "Let's go get our marriage license tomorrow." "Okay." I'm scared that the longer we wait, the more likely something bad will happen. The way she clung to me so nervously made me chuckle helplessly. Chapter 21. Our wedding was set for the first day of next month. Anna pestered me relentlessly and finally convinced me to get our marriage certificate early. "Darling, I finally have a name now," she said with a smile. We walked toward the Maybach, holding our marriage certificate in hand. But just then, a voice called out, interrupting the moment, "George." I froze for a moment and turned around to see Willow holding Alicia's hand. Both mother and daughter had red eyes as they looked at me. Alicia pouted, her voice trembling as she called out, "Dad." Hearing the commotion, Anna lifted her gaze and shot a sharp look at Alicia, which made Alicia hesitate to approach. She grabbed Willow's clothes tightly, glaring at Anna with wide eyes. Willow's gaze darkened, recognizing Anna as the woman who had caused trouble at the wedding. Anna casually placed her arm around my shoulder, her narrow eyes still fixed on Alicia. Her voice was calm and cold. "Kid, it's fine to eat whatever you want, but don't speak carelessly." Alicia bit her lip, summoning all her courage to shout, "He is my dad." With that, she stepped forward and pushed Anna, nearly in tears. "Don't touch my dad. Bad person. Big bad person." Anna looked at the bratty child with a headache, silently thinking about how Lucas was so quiet and well-behaved. She inwardly promised herself she couldn't let her child grow up like this. She raised her eyes, giving Willow a pointed look, her face darkening. It was almost as if she were saying, "If you can't control this child, I'll take over the responsibility." Willow's anger flared up, but she couldn't let her daughter cause a scene. She stepped forward, pulling Alicia aside forcefully. "Alicia, stand quietly." As Alicia moved, her clothes became unbuttoned, and Willow carefully buttoned them up for her. I used to take care of these little things. I thought Willow wouldn't notice these small details, but now it seemed she had been taking good care of Alicia. "Mr. Chan, I'm sorry. We were too abrupt earlier," Willow said, her tone full of remorse. "It's fine," I replied. Willow looked at me, Her eyes filled with endless nostalgia and guilt. Even though she knew that the man standing before her was the same one who had died, she didn't have the courage to ask for my forgiveness. Regret filled every corner of her heart. Just as she was about to ask if I'd join her for a meal, Anna shook the marriage certificate in her hand, and the hand resting on my shoulder silently declared her claim over me. You married her? Willow's voice caught in her throat, trembling slightly. I answered softly, yes. Anna smirked beside me. Yep. It's still fresh. We just got the certificate and then ran into you. What a coincidence. Huh. At her words, Willow's eyes seemed to flare up with anger. She clenched her fists, forcing herself to suppress the bitterness in her chest. After a long pause, she finally managed to say, congratulations. I opened my mouth to respond, but Anna beat me to it. Thank you, Ms. Liu. When we have our wedding, we'll definitely send you an invitation. With that, Anna didn't give Willow a chance to say anything else. She quickly turned me around and led me away. Watching the two of us walk away, Willow couldn't help but feel a pang of jealousy. She thought back to when she was the one walking beside George, but now, she had lost him. Alicia tugged at the corner of her clothes, urging her, Mom, Dad's walking off with someone else. Aren't we going to chase after them? Chase? Willow's legs felt heavy. She wasn't sure if she even had the right to chase after him anymore. Back then, George had wholeheartedly cared for her and Alicia, but at his most difficult time, she had chosen Makoto. Now, he was the son of Madame Chan, with a status and identity completely different from before, and by his side was Anna, someone with a family background that was equally powerful. How could she possibly have the audacity to disturb his life now? Willow gritted her teeth, took Alicia's hand, and began walking in the opposite direction. Alicia, let's let your dad pursue his own happiness. Chapter 22. On the way back, Anna held my hand tightly, as if afraid that if she loosened her grip, I would disappear. I knew what she was thinking. I sighed softly and smiled. Anna, I'm not going anywhere, but if you keep squeezing my hand like this, I might just die from the pain. Anna took a deep breath, frowned, and finally released her grip. Sorry, I'm just really scared. Scared of what? Our bond isn't that deep. There's a 7-year gap between us. What if Willow shamelessly chases after you and you get swayed by her? Normally, Anna always appeared calm and composed, with a family upbringing that kept her emotions hidden. We had been together for a while now, and I had never seen her so troubled over anything. It seemed that she was genuinely worried that Willow might steal me away. I felt a little touched and somewhat amused. The old George is gone. His past and memories are just a passing breeze, never to return, and the person I, David, choose is you, Anna. Upon hearing this, the tension in Anna's face eased a little. She turned her head to look at me, her expression unusually serious. Then can you kiss me every day, just to seal the deal? I almost laughed at this childish request. I wasn't planning to respond, but just as I was about to look away, Anna's delicate hand suddenly cupped the back of my head, pulling me into a kiss. She kissed me deeply, as if trying to take all the air from my lungs, not releasing me until I was on the verge of suffocation. If you won't come to me, I'll come to you. No chance to escape, Anna said with a playful yet loving gaze, her voice incredibly sweet. Her words made my heart race uncontrollably. The day before our wedding, I received a delivery box. I thought it was a gift from Anna, but when I opened it, I found a Hatian jade piece knot. Inside was a handwritten note. This was the heirloom jade pendant your grandfather gave me when I married. Now I'm passing it on to you, wishing you a happy marriage. I instantly realized who had sent the jade pendant. A wave of complicated emotions spread through me. When I needed my family's care the most, they had given all their love to Makoto. Now that George was gone, they finally thought of compensating me. Maybe George would forgive them, but David wouldn't. I resealed the box and had it sent back to Mr. Wang. Young Master Chan says he appreciates Mr. Wang's gesture, but the item is too precious for him to accept. Mr. Wang should keep it. My father stared at the returned jade pendant for a long time, clearly stunned. Not long after, he fell seriously ill and began to lose his sanity. He would hold onto George's childhood photo album, telling anyone he met about George's childhood, often mistaking other people's sons for me, repeatedly saying, Dad was wrong, I'm sorry, but all of this no longer mattered to me. Anna and I held a grand wedding, and it was called the wedding of the century, not just because of the high-profile guests and dazzling stars, but also because of the historic reconciliation between Madame Chan and Madame Su, two lifelong rivals. They had to sit at the same table for the sake of their younger generations, their faces polite but their hearts still at odds. Throughout the event, Anna and I anxiously watched the two elderly women. Fortunately, in the end, they didn't argue. On our wedding night, I untied my tie, exhausted to the point where I felt like my bones might fall apart. Anna walked over slowly, unpinning her hair. Her fingers lightly grazed my jaw as she stared at me with an intense gaze. That look made me want to run away, but the next second, She grabbed my wrist just as I was about to move. Anna pulled out a bottle of essential oil and began massaging my shoulders, though her technique was a bit clumsy. "What's on your mind? Huh? Why's your face so red?" Anna teased with a mischievous smile, raising an eyebrow. "Wait, no, it's not bro anymore. It's husband now." She leaned in and gave me a light kiss on the lips, her voice seductive. "Husband, tonight is long, and you're not allowed to say you're tired." I was speechless. I knew it. Anna, with her dark heart, wouldn't let me off that easily. Their intimate silhouettes by the window were seen by a woman outside the villa. Her face was deathly pale, and it felt as if 1,000 needles were stabbing her heart. "George," Willow whispered, and if anyone had seen her lost expression, they would have thought they'd seen a ghost. Chapter 23. Anna gently covered me with the blanket, kissed my forehead, and got up to leave the room. Glancing at the screenshot of the surveillance footage the steward had handed over, her narrow eyes narrowed, and a cold chill radiated from them. "Let's go. We're going to have a little chat with Miss Lu." Under the cold white moonlight, Anna, dressed in a black gown, walked out of the villa and headed straight for Willow, who was standing in the distance. The two women exchanged a look, neither of them in the mood for pleasantries. Willow's anger was boiling over, almost transforming into a blade, ready to tear Anna to pieces. I was wondering why the Persian cat kept meowing so much today. Turns out, it was because another one of its kind broke in. Anna lit a cigarette, took a drag, and slowly exhaled the smoke. The white mist was quickly blown away by the wind, revealing her mocking gaze. Willow's face turned ashen, and through gritted teeth, she spat out, "Anna, you despicable little woman. Even if you trick George into coming back to you, he'll wake up one day. When he wakes up, he'll come back to me, and the three of us will be reunited sooner or later." Willow wasn't entirely confident, but she still felt that the bond they once shared was too deep to be broken so easily. And, of course, there was Alicia. Anna raised an eyebrow, her eyes darkening to the point that they seemed to swallow all the light. Just then, a clear childish voice rang out from behind. "Mom." Lucas, holding a robot, sleepily walked over and grabbed her hand. Anna's expression immediately softened, the anger in her eyes vanishing in an instant. She bent down, picked Lucas up, and said in a gentle voice, "Why aren't you asleep at this hour?" Lucas looked at Willow. "I'm afraid that Bad Ant will bully you." The little guy's sharp eyes stared at Willow, making her face flush with embarrassment. Anna chuckled lightly, then turned to Willow to brag. "Did you hear that? My son, raised by David and me, just called you the Bad Ant." She emphasized the word ant. Lucas had gotten up in the middle of the night just to back Anna up. He nestled in her arms and, in a crisp voice, said, "Mom, let's go back. The wind outside is cold, and if you catch a cold, Dad will be heartbroken." Upon hearing this, Willow felt as though a knife had been stabbed into her heart. Her brows furrowed tightly, a feeling of unspeakable bitterness flooding her heart. Even though Alicia was here, she wouldn't be this clever or say something as thoughtful as, "I'm worried about Mom." At that moment, Willow's jealousy toward Anna reached its peak. Anna glanced at her out of the corner of her eye, holding Lucas as she walked back inside, deliberately saying, "All right, Mom will listen to you and Dad." The mother and son walked into the villa, leaving Willow standing in the cold wind. It was unclear how long she stood there, but eventually, Lu family's car appeared with its high beams on. The driver hesitated before speaking. "Miss, the old lady asked you to come home quickly," she said. She said not to embarrass her in front of the Su family. Willow gritted her teeth, not expecting Anna to be so scheming. She had called her grandmother and reported her, leaving her no choice but to get into the car with a dark expression. The wedding of the century for the Chan family dominated the front pages of all major news outlets for an entire week. Everyone envied the fact that Chan's eldest son had married the beautiful and capable Anna. However, the Su family's eldest daughter, who rarely made a public appearance on social media, registered an account on Weibo that same night, posting only a few words. "It was I who climbed too high. After the wedding, Anna spoiled me like crazy. Luxury cars, watches, nothing was off limits. She always came home by 9 o'clock. No matter how important the drinking party or how much her friends begged her to stay, she only had one thing to say: sorry, guys. Curfew at 9. Anna made no secret of the fact that she obeyed me without question. People in the circle couldn't help but joke that the dignified eldest daughter of the Su family had turned into a love-stricken woman after marriage. She raised her glass with no change in expression and said, "I enjoy it." The looks on everyone's faces were priceless. From then on, no one dared to say anything more. After all, no one wanted to be force-fed so much dog food. Chapter 24. On my birthday, Anna threw a lavish celebration for me on a cruise, inviting all our friends. Lucas had grown into a handsome young boy and performed a violin piece for me on stage. "Dad, I love you." Lucas kissed my cheek, looking at me with eyes full of affection. Alicia, who had sneaked onto the cruise, witnessed the scene. Her eyes immediately filled with tears, and she bit her lip to hold them back. Dad didn't like disobedient children. When I headed to the lounge, Alicia rushed over and stopped me. With a cautious look, she carefully presented me a drawing. It was a picture of a birthday cake with 3 stick figures smiling beside it. Dad, happy birthday. Alicia misses you. I looked at Alicia. She had grown taller, her once round face now a little sharper, and her features resembled Willow's more and more. The little princess she used to be was now much gentler and clearer when she looked at people. I calmly took the drawing from her. Thank you. Where's your family? Go back now. Alicia trailed behind me, looking wronged. Mom doesn't know I came to find you. I had the butler bring me here. As soon as she spoke, several bodyguards from the Liu family rushed over. Flustered. Miss, little miss, we finally found you. Seeing me, they looked awkward. Young Master Chan, we're terribly sorry. Little miss has caused you trouble. It's fine, I said coldly and turned to leave. The next second, Alicia gently grasped my fingertips. I don't want to go back. It's Alicia's fault. Alicia knows she was wrong. I'll change. With that, her eyes reddened again. Alicia won't eat snacks anymore. Whatever Dad doesn't allow, I won't do it. Please don't let them take me back. I felt a sharp pain in my heart. I paused for a moment before slowly saying, be good and go home. After saying that, I broke free from Alicia's grip and walked away. Afterward, Alicia would occasionally visit the Su family. Year after year, Willow scolded her a few times, but Alicia didn't care and still secretly came to find me. Later, Lucas got accepted into the best university, and Alicia, with her dancing talent, became his schoolmate. Lucas told me that Alicia took great care of him at school. Once, she even called him brother in front of others. Of course, she did this to get closer to me. Anna kept a tight grip on Lucas, never allowing him to get too close to her. Even though Anna and I had reached middle age, Willow had never remarried. Anna remained vigilant, not allowing her any chance to come back into our lives. The year Lucas graduated, Anna and I attended his graduation party. As expected, Willow and Alicia were also there. They stood not far from us, looking at us as we took photos together, their eyes filled with envy. After a while, Alicia quietly moved closer, standing just under a meter away from me, trying to join the photo. Willow, not wanting to lose face, lowered her head and coughed twice, then joined her. However, I didn't give them a single glance the entire time. That same year, Mr. Wang passed away and entrusted his entire inheritance to me. The lawyer conveyed his final wish. Mr. Wang said that these assets are for you to dispose of as you see fit. For the first 30 years of my life, I had given everything to the Wang family. This inheritance was rightfully mine. I didn't want to be connected to the Wang family any longer, so I donated it all. On the day we went to donate to the welfare center, Anna was with me, and we were surrounded by reporters and the director of the center, exchanging pleasantries. As we passed a street food stall, the city management ordered the vendor to leave, but the man refused and threw himself on the ground, throwing a tantrum. I'm the eldest son of the Wang family. If you dare touch me, I'll make sure you regret it. Hearing the commotion, I looked over and saw a disheveled Makoto, with white hair, arguing with the city management over the stall. There was a glaring scar on his face, a result of a prison fight. The privileged, scheming boy I once knew had long disappeared. As I watched, I didn't feel any sense of satisfaction. Instead, I felt a strange sense of fate playing tricks on me. Anna's gentle voice brought me back to the present. David, what's wrong? I smiled and shook my head, feeling at peace. Nothing. Let's go. Everything from the past faded away like the wind. The future still held brighter years ahead. Lucas linked his arm with mine, glancing back at the vendor. When the vendor saw him looking, he quickly looked away and lowered his head in a hurry. Lucas thought to himself that this person was truly strange. The sunlight shone on my face, and I squinted my eyes, watching the blue sky in the distance as a flock of geese soared above, choosing their path. I smiled faintly. In this life, I had finally made the right choice.